All right, with us right now, we've got Kevin Gootee. Kevin, you are the creator of a new show, Fantasy Football Jibber Jabber, and you are also the creator of a show that is streaming on Amazon Video, and we're going to talk about this, and that is Comics Watching Comics. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, sir, for having me. Appreciate the invite.
So, Kevin, what we really want to talk about in this show is like how you ultimately got to a platform like Amazon, why you did that. And we're going to talk about kind of the difference between creating a show for YouTube and then possibly working with one of the streaming platforms. And, the good news, I think, for creatives is there are more methods of distribution than ever before. Right. And there are more platforms that are, say, a little bit more curated than a YouTube, which of course is accessible to pretty much anyone. And I mean, unless you're a pretty evil person, you get kicked off because you're putting something out there that shouldn't be out there. Anyone can use Amazon or anyone can use YouTube.
Yeah. Wow, there's a lot of questions in one there. How did it come to be? Again, YouTube's obviously, first of all, for me, it was a beginning place. A lot of people have made a lot of money very fast off of YouTube. I did not. My views were not great on YouTube. I had better views on Facebook. So that was the one difference. And I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to know somebody who does have an in at Amazon where I was able to get in that way and take my show. I had 4 seasons at that point on YouTube, and then I was able to take all the previous 4 and then 5 seasons, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and get them on the Amazon that way. And that's where it currently resides is on Amazon Video right now for Comics Watching Comics.
So for someone who doesn't have an in, how do they get a show, in your experience, how do they get a show to say if they're like, oh man, my dream is to take this from YouTube or Facebook or wherever they're producing it and they want it to appear on a streamer. So let's start off by saying first, why would you want to do that? I mean, I've got some ideas on that, but what was your idea?
My idea is simple: more views. It gives it, and of course, more importantly, an air of distinction, if you will. Again, someone will walk in the room like, oh, this guy's got a show on YouTube. You're like, yeah, so what? So does my grandmom. She macrame's jean shorts, big deal. But when you walk in and go, hey, this guy's got a show on Amazon. Like I've seen that. My friends introduce me like, oh, this is Kevin. He's got a show on Amazon, even though I definitely do not ask them to do that. But you see the eyebrows arch like, oh, Amazon, really? Like, that's pretty cool. So it definitely gives that air of distinction and credibility, which is something, obviously, you try and seek for all your platforms. But, it's great. I love it. It's been a big help and definitely got me into speaking with more networks and production companies for other shows I've had.
And so again, for someone who doesn't have an in at Amazon, I mean, who are you pitching to? Are you just like going on Amazon.com, looking for the contact us email address and say, hey, have I got a show for you?
You are, but mainly you're going to be looking for production companies. That's the best bet. Go on LinkedIn. That's what I did. LinkedIn production, like people in production companies. You should kind of know obviously who your demographic is, what channel you see it on, and then reach out to those people on LinkedIn. And say, hey, I've got a show. It's kind of like in the same vein of this meets that on your network. Hey, any suggestions, any advice? Can I just link up with you? Maybe give you a call, or even if you're local, take you out for a cup of coffee and just pick your brain. Just any help. I mean, just say, hey, man, I'm just looking for some help. People are a little bit more, their guard drops as opposed to, I've got a show. Here it is. If you're more human about it in your approach, they're more likely to give you a helping hand.
Yeah, so you would imagine the keywords would just search for Amazon and production, and just kind of
or whatever network you're looking for. Correct.
Mm-hmm. So in your experience then professionally, once you got the tap to start, so you have been producing the show for quite some time, and for someone who hasn't watched Comics Watching Comics, can you just explain the concept?
Yeah, sure. It's like Last Comic Standing meets Mystery Science Theater 3000. So it's a comedy competition / reality show where we tape a bunch of comedians who are intermediate, and we watch the footage at my house with comics who are more tenured and have more credits and have who accomplish more. And we watch, we critique, we praise, we offer advice, and if they're bad, we let them have it. So, and there's a lot of ball busting on the couch. I also interview all the comics on the panel, just so you can say, hey, stand-up comedy isn't all that easy. Like being that office funny guy, that's great. But to make a living out of it, to try and even start it as a hobby is way more harder than you think. And it's almost, it's very insulting when someone goes, oh, you're funny. You know what you should do? You should go on Colbert. Like, ain't that easy? So we kind of, we break down how and why it is that hard, and some of the funny stories and awful stories that we've had throughout our journeys of comedy. So that's what the show is. So if you're a big comedy fan, if you like stand-up comedy, if you want to see kind of how the sausage is packed, well, that's that show kind of brings it into it. And again, no funnier group of people than watching comics sit down and bust each other's balls nonstop.
For sure. And so your background then, so you've been a stand-up comic for 10 years now.
About, yeah, 10 years in March.
And so explain that journey for someone who's not gone down that path.
Wow. It's tough. I have a day job as well. Cause again, just because you want to say, I'm going to do comedy doesn't mean people are going to start throwing you money. So, also a dad, and a husband. So I got to, bargain my time. If you're young, if you're thinking about doing comedy, obviously the best time to do it is now, as anything in life. But yeah, it's difficult because you got to go to these open mics. That's where you try out and test your material in front of other comics who could care less, most of them, 98% of them, about your material. And you try it out, and that's where you network. You start making friends, and you network. And after a while, you start asking people to get on shows, or they ask you to get on shows, or you create your own show, like your own comedy show. You do it at a bar, or a diner, a laundromat, a club, who knows. And you just keep getting stage time. I know it's the old hack axiom, but it's the truest one out there. Is you need to get more stage time no matter where it is. The more stage time you get, the more reps you get in the batting cage, the better off you are. And it slowly begins to manifest. And if you're looking for that quick overnight sensation, I know exactly 2 people out of thousands that have quote unquote made it. And by made it, I mean consistently paid and able to make a living off stand-up comedy in my 9 years that are able to really make it. I mean, I know people who quit their job and do comedy nonstop, but they're also the ones who are screenshotting their bank balance going, uh-oh, $7.04 left. Like, that ain't making it. But the long, arduous process, you better have patience. And most people do wash. I think the number was given, like 75% of people wash out after year 3. So you see real fast, it is insanely competitive. And unfortunately, most of you just aren't that good. Just a little dose of reality. But hey, you could say the same about me. You never know.
How is it performing for comics as opposed to performing for an audience where your peers are not in the audience? You mentioned doing open mics night. Sure. There's a lot of comics just kind of waiting their turn so they can go up and get their 3 to 5 minutes. Exactly.
They could care too less about you. If you get a comic to laugh, congratulations. Audiences are way easy because they paid to come out. They paid to have a babysitter. They paid for dinner to have beforehand. They're overpaying for 2 drinks and garbage, comedy club food. So they're looking at they're giving you a mile. All you got to do is just get in and make them laugh a couple of times, and you're their best friends. Comics just, again, they don't care. They're looking for their next spot. They want to get out of that mic. It's death. Everyone's just sitting there waiting to walk the green mile. So no one really, truly, mostly people care about what you're doing, what you're up to. So if you get comics to laugh, that's a huge pat on the back, huge star on your shoulder. Audiences to laugh, a lot easier than usual, way more easier than comics.
For sure. So tell me about fantasy football Jibber Jabber. Where are you at in the process right now? Currently, it's on YouTube, and so you could just search that again, fantasy football Jibber Jabber, and you can watch that. But I would imagine then, Kevin, that the idea is that you're kind of actively working with production companies right now, and would like to see this again get onto a different platform.
100% right. What we're doing right now, it's on Facebook and YouTube, as you just said, and a little bit of Instagram here and there too. But yeah, what this show is, if you're a fantasy football fan, we tell you who to start and sit. The difference between us and every other fantasy football show, we're insanely funnier because we're 2 comics. Myself and my co-host, Gerard Harron, co-host this show. And second of all, we combine fantasy football and gambling, NFL bets. We are damn good at this as well. where our spread was. I probably have to do the math, but last time I looked, I'll do the math real fast. 22-11 last week. I was 3-2. 13. I'm 25-13 for the year on the show, so that's pretty good. And a break-even point is 52.5%. 56% is making money. So I mean, do the math. I'm going to do it in 2 seconds here for you. But I'm well above 60%. I had a great year last year. I was 61%. Again, making a lot of money. This is a second income for me. Hence where the Patreon page comes in, patreon.com/fantasyfootball jibber jabber. And what we do is we offer our services to we do your fantasy football lines for $50 a month. We do you can also get my lock of the week picks for $150 a month. All you do is make one bet and bang, you've made your money back. And I don't even take any profits out of that. What we do is we take that money and we roll it right into the promotion of the show on YouTube and Facebook. So it goes right into the marketing process. So right now I'm 66% for the year. So I'll take that.
For someone who doesn't I don't know how the fantasy football betting world works.
Sure.
You just go on a platform, or you just with friends, or how would you place those bets?
Well, okay, so fantasy football and betting are two separate, completely different things. Like you have leagues for fantasy football where you draft players and you pick players, or you could do it where it's called daily fantasy, where every week you have a different group of players. If you do it with your buddies, you have one team and you have most of those players for the entire year unless you drop them or trade them or whatever. With daily fantasy, every week you pick a brand new roster, and it's like a salary cap. Like the better players have a higher amount. You only get X amount of dollars per week to spend, so you can't have 10 superstars every position. You have to budget out. You have to go high in one spot, low in another spot, and medium in another spot. So that's just fantasy football. Gambling is like where you see I think the Giants are getting 7 this week in Detroit. Do I think the Giants are going to cover? I don't know. Let's just say for argument's sake, I take the Giants. You can bet in a lot of states and now casinos too. Sports gambling is legal, of course. There are still plenty of illegal bookies all around the country. But yeah, you can go to a casino, walk in, say, the Giants going to win +7. Here's $110 to win $100, and that's how that works. Or, like I said, casinos in other states have also apps, so you don't have to go to the casino. For example, there are other casinos in Jersey where you can just download their app and make your bet there instead of driving 2 hours down to Atlantic City and do it that way. So that's two different things there we're talking. So.
Kevin, one last question on your work. What percentage of your time do you say you spend perfecting your craft and doing the creative side versus promotion and just getting your name, actively marketing?
I would say I spend usually Wednesdays preparing all my my fantasy football notes and such, and Thursdays doing my pick research as well. And then the other days I'm out blasting out, hey, and then we tape our show Thursday nights, and then we have it aired usually Saturday morning-ish, hopefully Saturday afternoon, and just blast it throughout. Hey, check it out. Here's who Kevin and Gerard think were the top quarterback plays this week. Here's one of Kevin's best bets for the week. Here's one of Gerard's best bets for the week. So, and it's constant just stream of consciousness in your face, oh, that's right. My day job is in medical sales, and I would be known as the guy who does, my medical test. I would be known as, the guy who handicaps, the guy who also does fantasy football. I have people, messaging me on Facebook or Twitter hey, man, who should I start this week? Or what do you think of the Chiefs +5.5 at home this week? And I'm trying to make myself like that brand. So just by constant, hey, or tweeting out articles or sharing articles, sports articles with my take on it. That's what I do.
My suspicion is for people that are either creatives or, they're performing, they don't realize how much time they need to actually spend. They're getting discovered. That's a really, really tough thing. That your chances of getting discovered are next to none unless you are out making discovery happen. Is that kind of your impression of that?
I do. I think, unfortunately, I live up in the New York area. I live in North Jersey, so it's a lot easier to have access to people who know people who can get me in touch with people. To do that and say, hey, here's who you should talk to, and it's just being in this area versus Lincoln, Nebraska. It's a lot better. I have more options at my hand and can get a hold of more people and can make meetings easier. And so that's the good news. Although if you live in Lincoln, Nebraska, and let's say you have one hell of a Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast or show about the University of Nebraska, if you're the best guy, you will get noticed. It's just gonna, it's gonna take time. It's gonna take a network of people to like and share your stuff nonstop. Like you have to have a top-notch product, and you gotta be consistent with the marketing promotion.
Nice. Kevin Gootee, you are the founder, the creator of Comics Watching Comics, now in its 8th season, and that streams on Amazon Prime. And so if you have an Amazon Prime membership, just search Comics Watching Comics, give it a 5-star review, share it with your friends. And then as well, look for Fantasy Football Jibber Jabber, which is on YouTube currently and quite possibly on its way to your favorite streaming platform as well. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate your time. Thank you.